problems you want us to help you solve. There's a role of rich internet applications, letting you easily build Ajax clients for the browser. But there are other things happening where developers want an internet experience, but on their desktop. And what can we do in our products and in VCL for the web, for example, to let you choose, yes, I want Ajax and JavaScript on the client, or I want something else running on the client. I want to use Google Gears for local storage and session persistence in an online-offline mode. We'll talk more about that. We've played with Linux with our Pilots product. We built an IDE. We probably should have just built a Delphi for Linux server to do your back-end work. Because Linux on the desktop, some use, but not many. But what we can explore is how to use the same RAD Studio environment you have today, but use cross-compilation techniques to then recompile parts of your program that you deploy to other worlds. So again, the team is looking at what to do in this area. Sets of products. We have JBuilder, and we have our JGear products. So JBuilder, 2007, we created 2 releases now of JBuilder. It's about doing Java development. We use the Eclipse framework, parts of the Eclipse framework, to help build the environment, but then focus on visual development of EJBs, of web services, of building distributed applications, of ensuring that your applications perform well in the Java space, that you can analyze the source code and the runtime to make sure it's doing the right thing, and how to improve team collaboration for larger projects. Some of our customers have made the decision to just use some Eclipse-based system, but they miss not having the JBuilder experience. And so we have the JGear products for performance tuning, for visual development, for live source modeling, and for team collaboration that work with just generic Eclipse, work with IBM Rational Application Developer, with MyEclipse, and others. So if there's some parts of the team use JBuilder and other parts of the team use another Eclipse-based Java development, you can still have the same team collaboration, the same change management system. You're not stuck with whatever another vendor provides. You can have the benefits of easily configurable team and task management for development teams. And that's the JGear Team Client and Team Server. So in November 2006, we released the first version of JBuilder 2007. We did an update, release 2 in May, adding support for Star Team and for CVS and the Borland Enterprise Server. And also make sure that the development environment worked on more developer platforms. But we aren't stopping there with Java development. Continuing to push the envelope of what it means to do team collaboration. What it means to get higher levels of reuse. Expanding how you can work with different frameworks. In the Java space, there are many persistent frameworks. There are many different frameworks for doing web development. And how do you mix and match those different frameworks and help make them work for you? And so JBuilder will continue to be agnostic about which framework you're using, but give you the same experience from project to project and team to team. And so the roadmap looks like this for JBuilder over the next several years. We just delivered what was called Project Briscoe, which was our JGears that we shipped in September of this year. Next up, the end of this year, early next year, is what we call JBuilder 2007 or Bonanza. And then follow that up with more capabilities over the quarters and years. Now, because our ID is based on the Eclipse set of frameworks, we also have to track what happens with Eclipse. And Eclipse ships a new release every June, the end of June. And the reason the end of June happens is many of the Eclipse-based committers, including some of our own engineers and Borland's engineers that work to improve the frameworks. They like to go on vacation in the summertime in the Northern Hemisphere. So they ship a new version of Eclipse to everyone, including us, at the end of June. So let's take a look at some of the milestone work and research that the Java team is working on. Continuing to support more pieces of team development and the application lifecycle. We have some customers that use ClearCase. We have some customers that use Calibre for the requirement system. So continuing to integrate in the Team Insight and Project Assist system the pieces of what it takes to be a team development environment or a collaborative environment. Continuing to add that and the integration. Continuing to support the new capabilities of the Java Standard Edition and Enterprise Edition. And as the databases are being revised, so are the application servers with new capabilities. So we have to continue to support those updates as well. It's one thing to profile your applications, but we also want to do more to analyze what you're programming, how it's organized and architected. And in particular, we're doing research in what we call application factories, where you can keep track of the process of building applications and gathering that knowledge and experience of enhancing or changing or evolving an application beyond just source code control history. When you add a new piece of functionality, how can you describe while you're building it so that other members of the team can understand it? Or someone who's going to take over your code can get in and start working immediately with it. Let's talk a little more about application factories. So I'll give you an example. JBuilder 2007 Release 1 was shipped in November. Part of the team went and added and worked on adding Star Team support to JBuilder Team Insight Project Assist. So traditional development environment model would be to check in the source code from JBuilder 2007 Release 1, and then start modifying all the different modules and source code files and the interfaces, and then check those in over time. And then if you want to see what's different between JBuilder Release 1 and Release 2, you do a source code difference or a history, right? That's the traditional way. But all along the way in adding Star Team support, many different files were being changed. Interfaces were being changed. Source code modules were being changed. It's never just that you can put all the functionality in one file. Think in terms of Delphi or C++ as well. Sometimes you have to change fundamental units or update objects. And those are spread across multiple files. Well, how can you keep track of all of those different files when you're going to hand over that feature set to another developer who's just joined the team? They have to go look everywhere. So one of the things that the team is researching is how to keep track of all the changes that you're making for a feature that you're adding, or a part of an application you're adding. Now, we already in JBuilder 2007 track all the tasks that take place, all the changes that take place, down to the even source code state. It's part of Team Insight. You can check out the work that you're doing, the tasks on a project you're responsible for. You can disconnect from the system, you can make all your changes, fix bugs, set the flags that you fixed a bug, completed a task, and when you reconnect, it synchronizes everything back to the change management system, and to the bug tracking system, and to the task management system. But again, those are discrete storage elements. We've got our X Planner for our tasks and project system. We've got Bugzilla for bug tracking, and Subversion, our star team, for change management. Well, now I want to hand over the star team integration piece of the project to someone else. They have to go find all those pieces. So what application factories will do is keep track of all the changes that you define as part of your application. The evolution of the code. The documentation you may or may not put into your code. So that when someone else picks up, or you pick up the next iteration or the next phase of the project, you just go into the application module navigation system and say, show me all the things related to star team integration in JBuilder. And you get a list of all the application level information that you can then navigate from, rather than going and saying, check out all the modules that have changed over the last 6 months, and then you get a huge set of source files that you have to start finding, or doing global searches for tags that you put in. So the system will be able to capture all the actions that take place by a programmer or by a team on a project or for an application. The second part is to take existing applications and think about how can we reuse an ERP system? How can we reuse a web application? How can we reuse a shopping cart or a bank management system in other applications? So the traditional way is we go to the change management and source code repository and we grab the 150 files that are associated with the banking and management application. And then we start modifying the code for what we need in our application. Wouldn't it be nice instead to go to the, think of it as metadata for my application and pull out the banking application from an application capability standpoint and have a view inside of the project that's that application and its different parts. I mean, eventually we're going to get down to the source code, right? But the environment can track everything that you do, how the application changes from time to time. And it can keep that information with the source code in what we call an application module. So surrounding all the source code, all the documentation, all the changes, it can all be associated with your project or your application. We can also, as looking through the use of projects, we can identify patterns of use and reuse and build up metadata about the application and the programs so that in some larger teams and even smaller teams, team members leave. They go on to other projects or they leave the company. And what usually goes with them is all the knowledge about the last 3 features or application changes they made. But if the collaborative environment is capturing all that information all the time and storing it as part of the knowledge of the application or project, then anyone can pick that up and say, show me what's going on in this application. Let me navigate not through source code and not through objects. Let me navigate through the fundamental parts of the application. And so what application factories will do is look at application development, not source code development. We already know how to do that pretty well. It will keep track of the structure of the application, the evolution over time of an application, not just the structure and evolution of a line of source code or of an object model, and let you browse and navigate through the parts of the application to understand better. And so the metadata and the knowledge that's captured while you're developing, as well as the source code and the object models and the unit tests and so on, get integrated together into the Team Insight Project Assist system. And that becomes the reusable software asset, not just the source code. And it's platform neutral. It doesn't matter whether you're using a framework for web, whether you're using SOAP or RESTful web services, whether you're using multi-tier, or even whether you're using Java and Eclipse. This same technology can be reused over lots of different languages and platforms. Okay, so beyond the next version of JBuilder, we take the same functionality that comes in JBuilder 2008 and we extract it out as gear, as JGear products for others that are doing Java development but maybe using other IDEs. And then as we get out further into the latter half of 2008 and 2009, we start looking at what we call Project Grasshopper. And looking at areas like how the team process works. We have some customers that use agile methodologies. We have other customers that still use traditional and robust methodologies. And so when you say file new project, and you say I want to use this persistent storage system, and this application server, and this database, then I also want to use this process. And please enforce that process over time for all team members. And also just making it simpler to do Java development, because Java in particular has so many options, it's getting more and more complex. And at CodeGear, one of the things we know how to do very, very well, and have been doing it for more than 24 and a half years now, is how to simplify tough problems. How to enhance the experience of the developer and of the team. And again, beyond that, taking the same functionality and delivering it as gears for developers who are focused on doing Java development. And then finally, in Optimus, taking the ability at the application level to keep track of the knowledge of programming and of architecting and of development of features and applications, bringing that to distributed teams. Part of the team may be here in Brazil. Another part of the team may be in India or China or in the United States. And how can all the work that they do get put into the global repository of knowledge of the application, and have the environment provide that capability for the members of the team working in a distributed environment?